All right, a very good evening to you and welcome to Late Night Talk. My name is Kofi Bartels, and I hope that you had a wonderful day so far. Tonight on Late Night Talk, we'll be talking about something very important and very interesting, which has to do with the latest developments from the presidential task force on COVID-19 and by extension, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. My guest tonight is a member of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities and is here to talk about the latest from the presidential task force on COVID-19, which is that the president has approved the opening of schools in Nigeria, talking about primary and secondary schools, despite the COVID-19 pandemic. However, a twist to that is the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, ASU, has kicked against it because not too long after the president's pronouncement came up, the national president of ASU did say that that organization disagrees with it and actually labeled it suicide. So tonight we have a guest on the program, as I said, the chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities at the University of Port Harcourt, Dr. Austin Sado, whom I'd like to welcome to the program tonight. He joins us live from his home via Zoom. Dr. Sado, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. What is your thoughts personally on the COVID-19 pandemic and its effect on the educational sector, starting from the universities? Let's start from there, sir. Yeah.
Or desired or required to meet that talk. So as usual, is talk, and nothing on ground to meet up that talk. And so you see that a number of issues have arisen, both from the primary and the secondary and the tertiary level. But even when you go on those levels, you still see that there are challenges amongst the private and the public-owned institutions. Massive challenges facing everybody.
The challenges you're talking about, I'm sure it includes basically the fact that students at home have had to cease from lectures, the whole argument about online learning coming up, but no headway in this. Do you think that we could have abated all these problems and challenges that we are talking about today? And how do you think we could have abated them?
Well, obviously, Kofi, if we had thought about today, yesterday, we probably would have been better prepared to face today. Even as we are now, we are still not thinking about tomorrow. So when tomorrow comes, it's going to meet us suddenly, and we are still going to be surprised by tomorrow. Now, I know that on some campuses in Nigeria, including my own campus, you do not have any cloud in that environment that students can just come in and begin to use their system and get into the cloud and do a number of other things. I know that lecturers used to pay, in fact, I used to pay 500 naira to have access to internet in the university, but I never got to have the access. I just paid the 500 naira every month. I never had access, and I stopped. So everybody is buying data bundle, and sadly, the authorities, there's a lot of pretense both among the university administrators and the general administration in the country. Nigerians are being deceived that a number of things can be done online. But you and I know the challenge we face every day when we even do things like Zoom that will require one-on-one connection only. Then you imagine what it will happen when you're having 300-400 students having to go through that system. And what it is just Zoom meeting. Is the meeting that some of these people are calling virtual learning. There's no platform. There's no platform. So we are deceiving ourselves. And if we want to deal with it, we have to tell ourselves the basic truth that we are not ready yet. We don't have the infrastructure. As a matter of fact, Kofi, if you are watching CNN and somebody is connecting via Skype on CNN, it is seamless. You don't see any distortion because the optic carrying the image and the voice could synchronize properly. In Nigeria, if you attempt to do a Skype call, you will see that there is a delay between the voice and the image, and it's not properly synchronized. It's just a matter of technology. You don't wish it. If you have a challenge like that, you invest and deploy the technology, and you do it. A number of people are seeing, even when we say we're doing online cashless society, you go to the ATM and you see what people are suffering, staying on queue to get ATM. It clearly shows that we are not prepared for any online transaction when we're deceiving ourselves. Now, for us to get that into the academic environment where we can pretend that we can do online learning, while we know we are unable to do that, that would be deception of the highest order. As a matter of fact, one or two universities around us pretended they were doing it, and they had a lot of challenges. We have to tell ourselves the truth in this country, that our educational sector has been denied what is required, what is needed to take us to the next level.
Hello, Dr. Sado, are you there?
And let's see this as an opportunity to do.
Hello, sir, are you there?
I'm with you.
Okay, so let's move straight to the matter of the day. I don't know if you hear me clearly because I'm having some holdback. But what are your thoughts on the presidential task force current directive from the president that academic institutions can reopen, particularly the exam classes, primary 6, JSS 3, and SS 3 for exams? ASU has described that as, quote, suicidal. What's your take on that? Of course, you're chairman of ASU in Uniport.
Absolutely, Kofi, suicidal. You can imagine what will happen. I think it was last week that the presidential task force released some form of. I don't think that was a guideline, but there was something they released and they called it a guideline, where they said that schools generally would be expected to construct isolation centers and have a fully equipped medical facility and have what it takes to observe social distancing and to wash hands for sanitary and hygienic conditions. Yeah. And except those conditions were met, it will not be advisable to reopen the school. The question to ask, whoever has made this decision, whether it's the president or the PTF, the question to ask these people is, what has changed from that last week till today? Is there anything that has happened in those institutions that clearly demonstrates that the isolation centers, even though as laughable as it looked, you will have expected that this government, it is their responsibility to provide those things. a success that if you're building up on that, you're going to achieve it at very great cost. It's going to be suicidal because the ground is not ready. Facilities are not there. Many schools don't even have borehole. So how are you going to prepare? How are you going to provide water for them? Assuming you're going to have a makeshift bucket arrangement with taps for them to do that. How are you going to ensure that there will be water for people to wash their hands? The decontamination process that we are talking is a government responsibility. Everywhere in the world, government takes the responsibility to decontaminate communities and ensure that the hygiene level is conducive for people to stay in. Have they done that? They haven't. The obvious answer is no. Now, when these students eventually get to school, what's the arrangement? Are they going to all stay indoors in the schools? Will they still be having contact with the society? I mean, you look at what has happened. Someone was speaking with me earlier today and said that there's going to be a problem when the lockdown, the interstate lockdown is eased up. And I said, no, we never had any interstate lockdown. People have always traveled.
Yeah.
For one person to travel from Lagos to Port Harcourt during that interstate lockdown defeats the entire purpose, because the guy comes into Port Harcourt and has contact with several hundreds of people who never knew that he had gone to Lagos. So what is the interstate lockdown for? We never had it. It's the same thing. People are going to be exposed, and when they are exposed, it's going to be catastrophic. I just wish that government would think twice. And if they are thinking for the safety of the people, if they're thinking about the security of people, they will have to think twice. The government must accept that they have failed this nation. It is to bridge that gap. It is to make people feel that they have not failed. That's why they're trying to be brave about it and courageous about it. But Kofi, honestly, you don't need to be brave. You don't need to be courageous to do something that will be as catastrophic as this, because the health facilities will be overwhelmed and it will be disastrous.
Okay, thank you, sir. If you're watching us, your comments are welcome. If you're watching a live stream right now, wherever you're watching the live stream on, please feel free to comment. You can also call. The phone lines are available for you to call. 080-620-99556. Number to call, 080-620-99556. You can call and have your say. Number again to call is 080-620-99556. My guest tonight is the chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities at the University of Port Harcourt, Dr. Austin Sado, and of course talking about the new decision by the federal government announced by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 today that primary and secondary schools in Nigeria are to reopen, but not reopening for the sake of reopening. They're opening basically so that those in the examination classes can get back to complete their exams. We have primary 6, GSS 3 and SS 3. 080-620-99556. If you're having issues hearing us clearly, we sincerely apologize for that. We're trying to sort it out. But 080-620-99556 is the number to call. I'll take it again. 080-620-99556 is the number to call. Dr. Sado, please, can you hear me? Hello, sir. Please, can you hear me? Sir, sorry, can you hear me? One more time, please. Okay. So I'll read some comments here. Let's say technology sometimes it can be difficult, and we're just trying to make sure we sort out the issues that we have, and then I'm sure that we'll be able to get back to Dr. Sado. Okay, sir, can you hear me, please? Is it clear?
I can hear you. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Please, what about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Quite clearly. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so let's get to comments. Please feel free to call 080-620-99556. 08062099556 if you'd like to have your say. 08062099556. Okay, comments here. I can see a few on Facebook. Okay, King George, good evening to you. King George says, please, this is not time for us to talk about school. My brother, what do you want to talk about? Sammy, please come and help me. Says, my brother, this is no time to talk about schools. We have something that is killing us. We have something that is killing us, and we want to expose our students to such. Come, please. We have something that is killing us. We want to expose our students to such. If anyone dies, he or she is gone, but the school will remain. So I'll advise that we handle this pandemic before reopening schools, because social distancing cannot work in our schools, please. Okay. Thank you very much, my brother, for that. Akanto Asogo says, suicidal indeed. King Mbaba Jr. says, it's only suicidal because they have not succeeded in getting their bread through the back door. It's talking about ASU. Says you've not succeeded in getting your bread through the back door. I don't know if you understand what he means by that. Maybe you can help me to explain, Dr. Sado. Leaving other staff handicapped. Okay, they're saying other staff are handicapped because they're not working, I guess, and you guys are enjoying. Even though you're not working, you are getting something. And Mecca Eliza says we can't hear him loudly. Okay, we'll work on that. Okay, you can hear him now. All right. Emeka Eliezer says tell him to mute his mic when he's not talking. Anita Andrew says Ashley should go and rest. The confraternity of union has outlived its usefulness. Ooh. Bamdele Morayo says it's a dicey decision. We must muzzle efforts to find a homegrown solution to this pandemic. Victor Emela Toby says, I agree with ASU 100%. Emeka Eliezer says, all sectors have been underdeveloped in the country. MC Pempi, good evening to you. Ayali Bechiobina says, why would they reopen existing primary and secondary schools? Will they adhere to the medical protocol more effectively than existing university students? Okay. All right, Dr. Sado, what do you say to the comment that ASU is saying it's suicidal because you are being paid even though schools are shut down? So your members are being paid, you're receiving salary. Sorry, Dr. Sadu, please, can you come again, sir?
Yeah, I'm saying that as you know, many of our members have not been paid anything since the commencement. As a matter of fact, we had an ongoing struggle with the government, and we've been denied salaries because of IPs. And when we shouted about it, the same Nigerians were saying, oh, you can't tell your employer how to pay you. Many of the people who sabotage the effort are not our members now, and as some other unions, everybody is crying. They have come to see that we do not just talk. So these are little blackmails that people can throw at you. And honestly speaking, we're a focused organization. We are not interested in what individuals who do not understand what the issues are and pick up issues with them. As a matter of fact, anybody who truly understands what this union has done over the years knows that without ASU, we probably would have said goodbye to public universities in this country.
Okay. So, Dr. Sado, you've raised a very important point. Your initial explanation of why it is suicidal, basically saying that we're not ready to have the students go back to school because basically we don't have the facilities in place for them to be in the classroom safely amidst the coronavirus. The alternative is that they continue to remain at home, because you've also said that the facilities for online learning are non-existent in our educational system from the primary to the tertiary. So it means that we don't have e-learning, we can't have it because we don't have what it takes. And now you're saying also that we're not ready to have students in the school because we don't have the necessary facilities and arrangement for them to safely learn without being exposed to COVID-19. So what is the alternative in the meantime, since coronavirus is still with us?
We're not ready, and we have to find a way to be ready. Government has to intervene by ensuring that at least the basic sanitary requirements, the basic hygienic requirements in those schools are met. You could have detergents, you could have water, you could have good toilet facility, that particularly in the public schools. So when you do all this, and the people can begin to go back. But let me tell you, Kofi, if you were to reopen University of Port Harcourt today, there is not a single lecture hall in University of Port Harcourt that can take a class of 100 observing social distancing.
Not even one.
Not a single, not one. Now, my union, we have a hall that's about 600 capacity. That's the best you have in the university. It's not government owned. It's not rocket science. Kofi, I want to tell you, that hall, I'm inviting you to come and look at it. The entire of that structure cost less than 300 million. If the administrations or governments were to do it, we'll be talking about 2 billion naira. So the money is there to do these things, and we can lend them. If that's just to show you that we are in support of whatever can happen to whatever we can do to make sure that the system is running. If they want to use our hall for classes, we can give them. They can take about 200
people.
You
give your hall out to the students for lectures.
Yes, we can give them. But the point is, that's just one in the entire university. So how many classes are you going to have, and how are you going to share it? Let's not pretend about it. We are as far as I'm concerned, we're on ground zero. And we must accept that we're on ground zero. If we're on ground zero, then we need to get back to have a new architecture that will take us moving forward and work together. This is not a time to do they versus us. If they want to work and they want us to get back, we must come together. Both the government and the lecturers, the teachers, we must come together and determine that this is the minimum requirement that we need to move forward. It's not something somebody states somewhere in any government house in any state of the federation and decrease it, because you and I know that the public institutions in this country have been denied funding. They are at a point of deterioration. And if we don't do something about it, it will just be mere pretension.
Okay, so Dr. Sado, I asked the question, and the question is simple. In the meantime, since you're saying that we don't need to have the students in school because we don't have the facilities for social distancing, you've talked about water and sanitation, also decontaminating and the surfaces in the environment. And you're saying they can't study from home or write exams from home because they don't have the necessary framework for e-learning, online learning, and exams. Once again, I ask you, what happens to our students in the meantime? Are they going to stay at home indefinitely? Is education in Nigeria going to remain at a standstill? Don't forget, these kids are growing and time is ticking. And, are you saying we should just sit down to have everything perfect before we kickstart or restart education in Nigeria?
The question you're asking is just like asking me what's the alternative to life. What's the alternative to life, Kofi?
I don't think I'm asking you what is the alternative to life. It's a simple
No.
Sir,
No,
sir, you are a lecturer in mass communications. And I know that you usually you test your strategies on me. So I'm coming back to you.
No.
It's one of those days.
Allow me to answer. Allow me to answer your question.
Go on, please.
The point I'm making is that there is no alternative to life, and it is almost close to that. The alternative to what we have now is calm down and let's have a meeting. Let's have a discussion. What's the minimum requirement? And let's put those minimum requirements. And now ensure that everybody is working together, not working at cross purposes. We can do it. And it's possible. What is not possible is where, so I hate to say this, Kofi, but I'm going to say it nonetheless.
Okay.
This not working at creating resumption of schools, whether it's primary school or secondary school or whatever, where are their children? I hope that when we get to those schools, we will see their children in those schools. It's a sad commentary.
Okay.
If we can't see their children, then it's also the same thing like what we do with our election. Their children are not involved. They are not even registered voters, but they tell you to defend the votes with your life. And at the end of the day, there's no dividend. There's no reward. Nobody keeps any social contract.
Okay. So what you're saying is that because I need to
and at the end of the day,
are you
there's
saying
no dividend. There's no reward. Nobody keeps any social contract.
So what you're saying is that
the point I'm making is that at the end of the day, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Nobody keeps any social contract. I can hear you.
So what you're saying?
Hello?
Okay, so I can hear you now. Please go on.
Okay. Now, the point I'm making is it's not sufficient to just decree it. If the government said this is the minimum requirement, have they met those minimum requirements? I wasn't in the committee, the PTF, when they said you need to have isolation center. I wasn't there. When they said you need to have environment, I wasn't there. And I'm asking, if those things are not there, what is informing this decision to reopen the schools and endanger the life of the ordinary Nigerians? Because these politicians, their children are not there. Their children, I can speak this way because I have children in public school and I want to speak to defend them. These people who are making this laws, from the president to the least of them in the local government, their children are not in public schools. I'm sure you saw the other day when they talked about the children, one of the daughters of the president who studied photography in London, who came back and they had to organize a double for her in Maiduguri. Those are the kind of leaders that we have in this country. So when they say, oh, we're going to reopen the schools, whose children are they making a decision on behalf? Do they have the moral right to make decision on behalf of my children, whom they do not think are citizens of this country, to whom they owe responsibility? My answer is no. They don't have that moral right because they have failed these children. They have failed their parents. And so it's not enough to just feel that, oh, let's reopen the schools. We want the schools to be reopened, but let them meet their minimum requirements. They set those requirements. We didn't set them. And so if nothing has changed, then resumption should actually not be in contemplation.
Okay, interesting. If nothing has changed, resumption should not be contemplation. And to my question, obviously you're saying that there needs to be a meeting where the stakeholders sit down with the presidential task force or other government officials, I'm sure, including the Ministry of Education, to iron out to fashion out modalities for the reopening of schools in Nigeria, especially for exams. So we'll come back to that. Resumption of schools in Nigeria. If you're having a hold back, please, you can tell me on in the comments so that we can fix it. If you're hearing clearly, please feel free to also show, including the Ministry of Education. Please let us know because I think we're having one or two issues with the audio. If you can hear me, please just point up. Okay, good evening to those who are joining us. My guest tonight is the chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities at the University of Port Harcourt. He is Dr. Austin Sado. You can tell me about the resumption of academic activities in primary and secondary schools across the country, as announced by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, that in a bid to ensure that those in the examination classes, primary 6, JSS 3 and SS 3, are able to write their exams because they say time waits for no man. Okay, if you can hear us clearly, please indicate so that we can be aware. If there's an audio problem, by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, that in okay, we have a next comment here. This is sent in by, let's see. Okay, King Mbamba, I've read your comment already. Emeka Eliezer, I think I've read a comment. Thanks for the feedback, Emeka. Victor Emela Toby, I've read already. Emeka Eliezer says, all sectors in the economy have been underdeveloped in this country. Okay. Anyale Bechobina says, why would they reopen or resume existing primary and secondary schools? Okay, I think I've read this already. Comrade Nwibakpo Golden says, good development, but they must adhere strictly to the government directives on the use of nose masks, social distancing, and hand sanitizers. Silva says, yes, they should resume schools for those who are writing graduational exams, and it is not a suicidal act, it is a good thing. Okay. Someone obviously disagreeing with Asu there. Stanley Okereke says, each time I hear all these pandemic stuff, I just laugh. Markets are open, shopping malls are open, workplaces are busy, including people moving in and out of the city. People are still alive. My question is, why is the virus not killing Nigerians as it killed Americans? Dr. Sado, so this is another aspect of the whole conversation. People saying, the pandemic is not killing people. People are moving around. You mentioned the fact that interstate lockdown was just a mirage, probably, because, for want of a better word, because people were moving around and moving across the country as freely as the air that we breathe. So what do you say to this view that there's really no danger because people have been moving around? The hospitals, the workplaces have been open, banks have been open, malls have been open, and everybody is moving around and working around just fine. And probably we are being a bit too alarmist in our reaction when we hear words like suicidal, etc. What do you say to that? Hello, sir. Hello, Dr. Sado, are you there, please? Hello, sir. Can you hear me, please?
Okay.
Yes, better. We can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Fine. The point I was making is that these comments actually tend to question the existence or otherwise of COVID. But COVID is a reality. And what is happening right now is that these children are out of school. And so it's helping to curtail it. For the fact that you keep hearing the numbers rising across the nation, even overseas, you keep hearing the number rising, shows that the level of community transmission is increasing. And sadly, I just heard in the news today that since we started in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State, we've tested less than 3,500. So what's 3,500 compared to a population of about 3 or 4 million? So we haven't even done enough. So we can't say that transmission is low. That even in this little number that we have tested, you can see the alarming figure that is coming up. So imagine what will now happen when children, get back to school. Remember that when children get back to school, they are going to exchange their nose mask. Some students are going to take another person's nose mask because he's unable to provide for himself, or he has misplaced his own. He's not going to think about the health implications. He's going to just think, if they say I don't need a nose mask, they will punish me. Any nose mask I say, I'll just put it on. You don't know who has used that. You don't know the status of that person. It's going to be very, very difficult for people, even parents. I wouldn't be releasing my children to go to school. I would prefer that my children are alive with me and they repeat a year than to expose them
Dr.
to
Sado,
a
are you not
condition
sounding
where...
too alarmist when you say you prefer that they will be alive with you? I mean, are you not blowing it out of proportion? It's, that they're going to just die because they went back to school. Is what that person, that listener who commented is pointing out.
Kofi, the point I have made is very clear. If you have tested less than 3,500 and you have this scary information about the infection, what is going to happen when you now expose these children without control? You expose them without the facilities there. Nothing has changed. So it's a personal choice I have to make. I am telling you that if I have to make a choice of whether to let my children go back to school or to have them alive, I would prefer to have them alive and lose a year, if that's the best option I have available to me, than to trust a system that has not taken any thought of these children, a system that has not provided anything for those schools to ensure that the safety of these children is guaranteed when they go back. I will take rest. Ask for Kofi. I'm speaking to you now because I have a generating set. I don't have NEPA. I'm taking care of that. The data I'm using, everything about it, I have a borehole in my house. So we have lived with taking care of ourselves. We have lived with running municipal homes. Government has lost the moral ground to tell us when to send our children to school. Of course, but nobody is going to send anybody to jail for that. I'm responsible for my children. Government has never been responsible for my children. I am responsible for them. It's my responsibility to ensure their safety. I will take every legal measure available to me to ensure the safety of my children. That's the point. I mean, it's the decision that every parent has to make. I'm not suggesting to anybody what to do, but I'm telling you what I would do if I'm left with no option but a stark reality.
You're saying you're going to go take the federal government to court. Is that what you're saying? Or you just keep your kids at home and then the risk of failing an exam?
Well, the issue of justiciability is a major question in Nigerian constitution. I don't have the means to take the federal government to court, and but someday there will be some form of coalition that we can build up to take these people to account and hold them responsible. It's our commonwealth. They're not doing us any favor. They ask to be in government, and we have given them our commonwealth to manage on our behalf. They owe us the responsibility to ensure that they do a good job out of it.
Okay. All right, Dr. Sado. I want to read some more comments before I ask you my next question. Please, if we're not talking, can you mute your audio? Let's see if it will help us a little bit more when I'm reading the comments. Is it possible? Okay, you've muted. Okay, great. I think it's better now. Thank you very much. We have comments here from, let's see, I think I've read, okay, I've read this one, so I didn't just move past them. Okay. Golden Elijah says government should also reopen tertiary institutions with guidelines to follow. I don't think that will do anything to brighten Dr. Sado's mood, as he is also an academic in the tertiary institutions. Fidelis Pilra says, don't mind the so-called ASU. The president should go ahead with the plans because we're tired of staying at home. Time is going, he says. Dr. Sado, Fidelis says we shouldn't mind ASU. Time is going. You cannot mute now, sir. Time is going. If the federal government does nothing to make things better, will students stay at home forever?
You have asked that question before. I do not intend or wish that students should stay at home forever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I do not. I have not canvassed that view. But you see, anybody who says don't mind ASU must also take into consideration that we are going to be at the receiving end. Many of us are 55 years and above, and you're going to send these children who we do not have control over what they do and where they go to, and you send them to us in the classroom and ask us to have contact with them. Well, I wish that those persons who are also saying they shouldn't mind us should also consider the health implications to us and to our families. and maybe their parents will also be joined to teach as members of the union. So whatever danger they expose us to, every one of us will be exposed to it. It's not, I mean, it's not, you don't just get a one fix it all solution to this. We must think about what this crisis is and find a way to resolve it. I mean, casting aspersion or throwing stones is not going to help us solve this problem. I can't tell you the number of people that have died that I know of. Many of them were with COVID complications. And initially, we were told that the younger ones are able to withstand it and shake it off. But we don't control where students go. We don't control what they do. What about us who are going to be endangered by this form of exposure? Does anybody think about that?
Okay. All right. So he says, "Are we going to stay at home forever?" Time is going. Let's move on to another comment. So please, you can mute now. We have another one here by. Let's see. This is. Okay. I think I've read this one already. Okay. Chijoke Godson says, "Good evening. Reopening schools in any form for any form of promotional exam is a total disaster because a lot of lives are at stake at this point. What precautions have been put in place during this period for the examinations? Also, mind you, some people can be asymptomatic with the virus. How can you tell a kid who is in primary 6 to stay away from his friend all in the name of social distancing?" Which is what Dr. Sado was talking about. How can you tell a child in primary 6 to stay away from his friend all in the name of social distancing? We'll come back to that as we go on. Nicholas M. Amuda Afebu says, okay, thank you very much, Nicholas. Emeka Liza says the sound is better, thank you. Obele Ngoke says one must be alive to write exams. Government should put in place necessary measures to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus, because anything short of this, we must prepare to face the negative adverse effects of our negligence. Miracle Chi Mezia says, ASU, a bunch of confused fellows that claim to be, okay, this is too harsh. We want you to tackle the issue. But anyway, Miracle, thanks for your time. Humility Tudor says, for this country to be better, it should be made compulsory for all public holders, children to school in the country's public institutions. Then watch and see if the country will not correct itself. As long as politicians and public office holders seek medical attention overseas and other basic things outside the country, will never make any progress. Goodness DK is back, says, thank God we've realized that COVID-19 is not going anytime soon. We have to gradually learn how to survive, which is what the government is doing. So, Dr. Sado, I'm sorry, but I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to that because somebody has raised it again. He says we have to learn to survive, to live with COVID-19, and which is what the government is trying to do. And we're not going to have the perfect e-learning platform overnight. We will never have it for the next 10 years, if we want to put it that way, because of the way the country is. We're not going to have all the schools equipped with all the facilities they need. It's not going to happen now because we are overwhelmed. We're really backward. He says COVID-19 is not going away now. We have to learn how to survive with it. And therefore, the government is right. What do you say to that? Because we can't sit on our hands and allow our children to stay at home forever. Government will not get better. So I know I've asked you before, but I'm coming back to you again, Dr. Sado. Please, you have to unmute yourself.
Kofi, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Fine. Now, the point, I have to disagree with that view on account that why are we washing our hands? I mean, if we have to live with it, if we have to cope with it, why are we washing our hands? We are not asking for something different from what is expected. To live with it, to manage it, to adjust to it in the way this comment has been said, simply negates all that we are doing to find a way to deal with it. So we should stop washing our hands. We should stop using face masks. because these are things that are basic requirements that will help us. We're only looking at the issues as objectively as we can, that given the age of these children, they are very vulnerable. And that vulnerability will extend to the communities and back home. So what are we going to, I'm assuming we lose an academic session and we gain the life of people. We haven't really lost much. But if we lose the life of an individual, one, even if it's only one that is going to be lost in this process, one person is too much, is too many to lose on account of our unpreparedness. And so we're saying that to think that it's not going to go away. And honestly speaking, I am saddened, Kofi, that Nigerians have come to accept our poor state as a normal. People are not asking, why is it not possible for government to do the basic thing? Why are we still talking about sanitary conditions? And they're saying, no, let's cope with it. I am saddened by that, because the group of people that are making this kind of comment, it is for their sake we are building a nation. It is for their sake we are fighting. For many of us, we'll just mark our time and phase out of the system. The younger people who should be making this demand and asking and holding government to account, they are the ones that say, no, you know what, we can cope with it. What are you coping with? It's a question of life and death. And nobody can determine who has it. I mean, overseas, there are even applications to show you how much people are gone. Applications on phones that will alert people that this person is somebody that has had issue with COVID, or somebody that is exposed to somebody who has COVID and all that. All that is being done to ensure that the populace is protected. We're not thinking of any of this. And people say, oh, let us go and do exam. When we do exam, life will go on. And I ask you, Kofi, I'm sad to tell you this, that in the last 10 years, there are many people who were in a hurry to graduate from Nigerian universities. They don't have a job 10 years after graduation as we speak. It's a sad comment that even these people have not thought back to ask themselves, assuming we didn't graduate on the 10th year, we graduated on the 9th year, but we have a change in the system. Will I still be where I am today? It pains me greatly that I spent the whole of my youth struggling and ensuring, fighting to see that we can bequeath a Nigeria we will all be proud of our children. I'm getting close, older by the day, and almost working towards retirement. I'm still in that struggle. And many young people have since said goodbye to the dream we all had as children. Kofi, each time I talk about this, I'm greatly hurt, because I do not know what future this country has for my children.
Okay. All right, Dr. Sado, that's a very solemn one for us to think about. That, all these years. Please, you can mute the yourself. Okay, great. But we hope for the best. We hope for the best. We want to just read some more comments. If you're watching right now, you want to call, because we're almost done. We've done. Let's see how many minutes we've done. We've done 58 minutes so far. So if you want to call, feel free to call 080-620-99556. My guest this evening is the chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities at the University of Port Harcourt, Dr. Austin Sado, here to respond to the federal government's directive or plan rather to open schools for final or exam students to write those exams. So we're talking about primary 6, so we have the basic exams, JSS3 where we have the junior WAEC, and SS3 where we have the senior exams. Of course, the federal government announced this during the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 briefing, which was covered widely by the media. National coordinator of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 is Dr. Sani Aliyu, and he made this known today in Abuja. Let's just read some of what he says. Only those sitting for the National Common Entrance examinations that's for those in primary 6, WAEC and NECO exams, etc., are to resume classes as long as the schools comply strictly with the recommended steps and required measures to be issued by the Federal Ministry of Education and the federal government. Dr. Sado, so having said all you've said, because we know that only those in the exam classes are going to be reopening. For instance, you talked about how many classes can accommodate students safely with social distancing. If, for instance, in a primary school, primary 1 will not be there, primary 2 will not be there, primary 3 will not be there, primary 4 will not be there, primary 5 classes will be empty. And most of these schools have maybe A, B, and possibly C. Wouldn't it be possible for, I think it's possible for the primary 6 students who are writing the common entrance to share themselves, maybe we have A, B, and C in the school, to share themselves into the classrooms left vacant by the absence of primary 1 students. So you have primary 1, A, B, and C, it's free. Primary 2, A, B, and C, it's free, and so on and so forth. I don't need to belabor that point. Ditto for junior secondary schools, ditto for senior secondary schools. So that solves the issue of social distancing. And we don't know what the federal government and the Federal Ministry of Education will put out as measures or required measures for schools to reopen. So maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Maybe we should wait, because the word that was used by the task force, the PTF, was safely reopen or resume schooling activities. Your take on that, sir? Your response to that? You can please unmute yourself.
Maybe as the children go back also for social distancing, maybe they go along with their parents as their teachers. Because you just raised the point that if you have a classroom, a normal classroom, as I have seen in Nigeria, ordinarily shouldn't take more than 40 students. Mm-hmm. Now, with social distancing, you shouldn't take more than 10 in that class. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a class of 40, you're going to divide them into 4. And you have one teacher to teach them. So it's either they will go with their parents to teach the other 3 arms, or government is going to employ 3 more teachers.
Dr. Sado, but this is just for examination.
No. I'm not aware that they have concluded their scheme. No. And it's just examination. If you are talking about examination, and the only thing they are going to do in the school is to go and write examination, we'll be talking is a different kettle of fish. But it's not. That's not the reality. Now, the reality is that these students are going to, in one way or the other, continue their learning, because we never really had a second term. They're going to continue their learning. And if you're telling me that, well, you do not want to do another term, you want to examine them on what they have done on the first term, then you also would need to ask to satisfy me that the issue of quality has been met. Are we writing an exam for the purpose of writing an examination, or we are writing an examination to test the knowledge of the students that they have been properly taught? It raises another question. Which is why stakeholders in this system must come together to think and have a discussion on what to do and how to do it. Mere wishing, or as you said, maybe we're even getting ahead of ourselves. Let's hope that the federal government that gave out that initial guideline is actually thinking about what to do with the condition in the schools. If the students are not going to stay in school for the period of their examination, they are still going to be going in and out. It doesn't matter how many they are in that classroom. It's still going to be a lot of dangerous exercise to engage in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, sir. Please mute yourself. We will have some comments coming in at this point. I think AB George Apangula radio message says it's good that the school should resume. But what has the government done to put the schools in order before going ahead to reopen the schools? Well, the PTF says they're going to will get directives from the Ministry of Education and from the federal government as a whole. Uche Chiku JP says we lack initiative in this country. ASU, which is supposed to be a body of enlightened individuals, it's not ASU who is coming up with the idea. Please, it's the federal government. Uche Chiku. Okay, if you're watching, please share this post. Very important. Share this post so that your friends can also join in and watch. Israel Savior Akbon says government is right in its decision, but all the precautionary measures should be in place to curtail the spread of the disease. Oji Philip says we're still in lockdown in Bonny. Oji will come to Bonny at some time this week. We'll talk about it. Not as if I'm going there, but we'll talk about it sometime this week. So you can send me all the information, what you guys are going through. Thank you. I hope you're all well. Imahari says, how will the federal government at this point in time consider reopening schools? If they intend to do that, all of them that have their children abroad should bring them back to Nigeria. We are not disciplined here, unlike abroad where their children are. I stand with Dr. Sado. Okay, someone agree with you there, Doc. Israel Madu says the news is a cheering one. Uche Chuku JP says, I want Dr. Sado to give a project on when he thinks it will be appropriate for children to resume academic activity. So I know you've touched on this, but since this viewer or listener is asking just for his sake, maybe he's just joining, he says he wants you to project when you think it will be appropriate for children to resume academic activity. So just for his sake, sir, can you please give him an answer?
Kofi, schools can resume tomorrow. They can resume the day after tomorrow. So far as the minimum requirement for their safety is in place. That's the argument I'm making. If you do not have sanitary condition put in place, there's no water, no toilet, no face mask, no decontamination, and you can't see, and you are not likely to continue even the decontamination almost on a daily basis, then that's what makes it suicidal. It's not a time frame. And I don't have the resources to do that for any school. We are simply saying that make it safe. If you want it tomorrow, no problem, but make it safe for that tomorrow. And that safety level we're talking about has a minimum requirement. If you meet that and you want to reopen school, no problem. Until you meet that, plenty of problems if you attempt to reopen schools.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Chukwu Weta Nwosu says they are reopening schools for final year students only, and also is making noise. What is wrong? Markets are open, export of crude oil is on, and you don't want our final year students to graduate. I think you've already attended to that, sir. Let's just look at the example. I mean, Dr. Sado, Nigeria is not the only third world nation, not the only West African nation that is reopening schools. Even in neighboring Ghana, where they also have challenges just like Nigeria, economic challenges, systemic challenges, an educational system that is not the best in the world. Schools are opening partly as the country gradually begins to reopen following weeks of shutdown because of coronavirus. The president spoke, I think, of the last day of last month. News broke 1st of June. That Ghana schools will reopen its doors to final year students scheduled to take their exams, their final exams this year. So Ghana went ahead. It's not just Nigeria who is doing this. Doesn't that say anything as far as you're concerned?
I'm sure you also remember that Ghana initially opened and closed back again. Initially, that's not the first time.
That was a lockdown. But not schools.
No, it's fine. There was a resumption at that time,
okay,
and they reversed it. Yeah. So there was a resumption in Korea. They reversed it. There was a resumption in I think Germany. They reversed it. Now the point is, where is the science? Where is the science guiding this reopening or resumption? Because the point is, for those who did, and of course these are people who are better prepared than us, they reversed it. In our own case, we have done nothing. There is no public school you go to today and you see water and soap. I without considering that Nigeria is the worst scenario, in many African countries, Kofi, as I speak with you, the next wave that is going to hit our environment is that many of our colleagues are already thinking of moving to other African countries, because teaching in Nigerian universities is the least of any university remuneration anywhere in Africa.
Doc, that is debatable because I mean Nigerian lecturers are known to be quite wealthy.
No, Kofi, I don't know where you got your information from, and I hope you're not joining. I hope you're not joining.
Maybe things have changed, but when I was in school, lecturers they were
no. Except you want lecturers to be beggars, because as I speak with you, I don't know if there's any professor in Nigerian university who gets as much as 500,000 naira a month. Kofi, you can go and check it out. So when you say wealthy, I don't know where you got your information from. But I do not want to be distracted from this discussion to begin to talk about the welfare of lecturers. I'm only using this as a point to show you that even when you talk about other African countries, we are just mere giants of Africa by word. Nigerians are moving out in droves to go and teach in other universities in other African countries because it's a lot better there. And so I want to also believe that in the same way, the conditions are largely not the same. You and I have heard how that certain projects, the same projects in any African country could be 25% of what we have used to do it in Nigeria, and we don't still get the value of the 25% that has been done elsewhere. So it's something for another day, and it's debatable. We can talk about that until the end of the world. But the point has to be made that this is where we are, and I can tell you about the condition here, that the condition here has not met that expectation that we can just boldly say, oh, close our eyes and send our children to school. We're talking about the future of this country. Many of these children are those who are going to come out tomorrow to be the senators, the governors, the scientists. We shouldn't play with their lives. We should ensure that they are properly protected. And to the extent, what makes it worse, Kofi, I keep talking about is when those that we have trusted our patrimony to, when their children are not part of this equation, it makes it doubly sad for us. And so people shouldn't think that the life of Nigerian children do not matter. It does matter, and it must seem to matter, and we must ensure that we protect those lives. It doesn't matter what names we are called. When we keep speaking up against the evil in this society, whether or not Nigerians accept that what we're saying is right, it's a different thing. We will keep doing it, and we will keep speaking to hold power, to speak truth to power, and to hold them accountable to the extent that we can, whether or not we accept that this is the right thing to do and to move this country forward. It's for another day's discussion. But as a responsibility, we will continue to speak out. We'll continue to support all that is objective. We'll continue to support all that we make sure that the Nigerian person, every Nigerian is well considered as a human whose life is important and must be protected by the state.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Doc. Last comment here before we say our goodbyes. Golden Elijah says, Kofi, you believe with me that all government-generated revenue agencies are open already. If interstate movement can commence, why can't they reopen schools while our markets open? Our house rent will soon expire. So government should reopen tertiary institutions so we can adhere to any guideline given to us. Interesting economic concerns as well. But Doc, I think that most of those who are watching and listening right now online, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, do agree that most of them that whilst there's a need to reopen schools and for our kids to get back to school, some also, of course, want the universities to be open so that economic activities can kick up or get back to an appreciable level. They also realize that government needs to do the needful to safeguard the students. You know, I think I also personally agree with you that it's not just enough to say go back to school. You have to provide the environment to keep them safe. Otherwise, government would themselves will be breaking what they are telling other people to do. You know, I do know that the state governments have a role to play in this as far as the schools are concerned, because a lot of the schools are state-owned. Maybe it's going to be possible for them to regulate look at providing water facilities, which I don't think is too difficult for the states to do. Would they do it? I don't know. Especially in the schools that are in what do they call it, in the rural areas. I know that some states have already been talking about their plans to reopen schooling, or resume schooling rather, in their own states before now. Don't you think states can wing it? Let's say they have a meeting, they have a committee on reopening schools where they break it down to local government by local government, and then they say, okay, each local government should have a subcommittee on reopening of schools for exam purposes. If it's going to be for 2 weeks, they write the exams. Each committee per local government will go to every single school in every single corner of that local government area, both private and public, to ensure that they have the necessary requirements, be it just like we have in our health facilities, be it what do they call it, water, and other things, the place is fumigated, etc., that masks are provided. Can we do it? Can it be done if we break it down that way?
The primary school I attended is called Onite Primary School in Asei Monita. Asei Monita is Nandoni district of Obaigbe Mandoni local government. I can take you on a ride tomorrow, Kofi, if you are willing. We will get to that primary school. I can tell you, Kofi, if you go there 5 years from today, there's no water, there's no toilet in that primary school. And I attended that primary school 1978, 79, I finished from that primary school. Now, there are many of such primary schools all over River State and every other place in this country. And the point I'm making is that if God has given me the privilege to come out of that environment and to have seen the little I have seen about life, the least I owe those people is to become their voice and request that government must go back to that environment and take care of those children. And if I do that, and anybody who is privileged believes that I am talking nonsense, I can live with that, Kofi. I can live with that. My conscience will be clear that I have done what is expected of me. There are many of such primary schools all over. And if you say go back to school and you have not provided for these people, you have simply destroyed their future, and they will only be left. They will be left to themselves. And I don't think that that's what governance is all about. We gave these people votes. We gave them the power to govern us, but that power is not an absolute power to determine our future. It's power to call us and discuss with us on the best way to engage and to develop this country and take us to the next level. It wasn't a suicide attempt. We were not by any means committing suicide when we elected this set of people to be officials of government in this country. They must respect that. And I speak to the conscience of the leaders of this country as I make this comment, Kofi. I speak to the conscience of these people who have taken this responsibility, that the poor that you fail to take care of today would definitely be a problem to you tomorrow. What we are passing through in many of our communities in South and elsewhere, even in the country at large, is a manifestation of the failure of leadership in this country in the several years past since our independence. And I make no extra demand from these people other than, please consider Nigerians that you owe them responsibility and discharge those responsibilities.
Okay, Dr. Sado, we want to thank you. Well said. And of course, I know most of those who are watching right now would want to see, an improvement and betterment as far as facilities in the educational sector is concerned. I mean, who are we deceiving? We're just talking about sanitary facilities in schools. I mean, do we even have schools to start with? You look at the infrastructure. What constitutes a school? Not even in the villages. Let's just start start to come to the cities. I know of a particular school in GRA. Is it Army Secondary School? One of those primary section is just secondary section is an eyesore, with roofs caving in and all that. And our politicians will just put up one or two things, and then they paint the place, they whitewash it, and then they go and take pictures all over the place. And when you look at the amount that was used as contracts for the renovation of the schools, and you look at what they have there, it's a far cry. Even the ones that they did, the maintenance is not there. The ones that we had from the previous administration, where are they today? It's really sad, really sad. We are way behind. And I don't know. Is this the time to start talking about the poor educational infrastructure at all levels in this country? It's a big shame. It's really a big shame. It's something that should make people really go on the streets to protest, to block the road to the National Assembly, to block the road to Aso Rock Villa, to block the road to Brick House, Port Harcourt, and say, Governor, National Assembly, you shall not pass. Educational system is in shambles. We need to be ashamed. And we know when we say some of the things we say, we just try to whitewash them. I think you personally, you're being even diplomatic in some of the things you're talking about. Our educational system is in shambles, and it's a disgrace to this nation. And people need to, it's a point of protest, really, that we're just accepting it as if it's a part of life, as if it's normal, like you said. It's quite unfortunate. And I 100%, 110% agree with you that before the federal government will tell students to go back to school, since they're the ones shouting about coronavirus and urging people to adhere to strict rules and arresting people and detaining people, that they themselves should also make sure that they don't send children back to school without providing the enabling environment. Every single school in this country. And they are also giving us the wrong message when they bury their friends and they bury their loved ones, and they go and they break the rules that they put in place. When Abakari was buried, we saw what happened. When Ajimobi was buried, we saw what happened. What are we talking about? They're not practicing what they're preaching, and it's unfortunate. I personally think ASU should even do more. Go on indefinite strike until the educational system is put back in place. Not just when the government says, okay, we will settle your remuneration issues, which actually are also your right to protest about. But what we see in the past is when, ASU fights, and then it's okay, we will settle, the remuneration issues, the arrears, it calms you down a bit and you get back to school. But you have to go on an indefinite strike to say we don't have education in this country and something needs to be done about it. Where is all the money going to? Where the money, what are they using the money for? We hear loans and loans and loans and loans, and where's the money going to? We're taking so many loans. They sometimes they garnish it by saying it's a soft loan, blah blah blah. But they are mortgaging the future of this country without tangible results on the ground. It's quite unfortunate, Dr. Sado. It's unfortunate, really. And if coronavirus is what will make them put sanitary facilities in schools, then so be it. But I mean, schools ought to have running water. They ought to have toilet facilities. There are several schools. My father, Dr. Sado, was a secondary school teacher. And I know that in several of the schools he taught in, students used to defecate in the bush. They used to defecate in the bush. Girls. My dad taught in Holy Child Girls School in Calabar. They used to defecate in the bush until the Catholic Church took the school back and they renovated and then put the toilets in place. They were defecating in the bush, Dr. Sado. It's unfortunate, sir.
Yeah, Kofi, I think you have said it, and as a matter of fact, we are actually on a struggle right now. We're on an indefinite strike. That strike started a few days before the COVID pandemic was declared in Nigeria. And I think we are going to take this as an opportunity on ground zero to insist. Our strike has really never been about how much they pay us or what they settle. The only difference is when we go on strike and they sign a memorandum of action, it is not about salary. It is that we will do this, And Nigerians will put pressure and say, government has said they don't have money. Government cannot foot the bill. Once they begin to do that, you consider it and hope that a government that signs an agreement will keep it. But this time around, Kofi, I can assure you, the strike that started in March this year, whether or not they reopen school tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, until we get to a point where we are certain that something dramatic has happened in our educational system, we're not going back. Well, for those who are willing, who are interested, they can take up our jobs, and we are willing also to look for jobs elsewhere. And I can tell you this, Kofi, that any person who is a lecturer in any university can get job outside the university. Many of us got into this because of the passion to contribute to raising the young ones. And any day it becomes absolutely impossible, I can assure you as well that we'll look elsewhere. Many of us are not jobless people who cannot fend for ourselves. With or without this job, we will survive because we are well prepared to face the difficulties of life. It's just a calling we are keeping. We are not abdicating that responsibility. We will keep holding this government accountable and responsible for their whatever they have to do in our system.
All right, Dr. Sado, I want to thank you very much. Golden Elijah sent the message. Thank you, Golden, for your message. Clementina Okomoko, thank you very much for your message as well. She says, I don't see anything wrong in schools reopening. It's not as though all the classes will be in session, just SS3 and SS3. The schools should be able to social distance. They wear masks and water and soap and to wash their hands. Will those things be provided is a question we're asking. Fatai, we have schools where they're asking students to bring toilet roll and broom. Man. Fatai Rasaki says the health system is already overwhelmed and the federal government is not doing its best to invest massively in the sector. Social behavior in taking personal safety of our own protection, for ourselves is highly minimal. I suggest we are not yet ready to reopen schools across the country at this material time. Thank you very much, Fatai Rasaki Esquire. Dr. Sado, I want to thank you very much for your time. It's been a thrill having you as guest on Late Night Talk tonight. I'll send you the link so that you can also watch the replay, of what we have done tonight. But I want to thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Sado. Thank you for your time, sir. So you have to unmute yourself. Because
thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kofi. And I'm always available whenever there's an engagement, as long as it's about this country.
Okay.
And as long as there is life within me, you can be sure I'll be available anytime.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, sir. And have a fantastic night.
All right. Good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's how the cookie crumbles on Late Night Talk. My name is Kofi Bartels. I want to thank all of you for your time and for your support with all we're doing. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I'll be back tomorrow, same time. Tomorrow we'll have a guest here with us in the studio, and we'll be talking about several things that you'd like to be a part of as well. Very interesting guest. And I think at some point this week too, we're going to go out to meet someone out there. What we're doing is want to take this experience to the nooks and crannies of our nation, of our city at least. So we'll be visiting people and having a live session with them, taking the entire studio to them. Trust me, it's going to be very interesting. And what we're doing can actually be broadcast on radio live. So we're also putting it on air live so that you all can follow as well. But please share this post. If you have any suggestions, feel free to reach me by sending a message to me. God bless you. My job here is done. Have a fantastic night. And we will see you tomorrow. Good night.